Hey Planty People, do you know what time it is? It's Terrarium Time! My favorite time. I mean, I love potting plants and making bonsai, but the creative freedom of making a terrarium is a whole other level. I'm truly creating a tiny landscape. I'm also going to try something new here, and we'll see how that goes. I'm going to use a 1-gallon old school anchor hocking apothecary jar. And that should be plenty of space for 3 little ferns and some live moss. By the way, you can use any clear glass container for a terrarium. It doesn't have to be specifically made for plants. I wouldn't recommend colored glass because that might not let enough light in, or textured glass because you wouldn't be able to see inside, and that's the whole point. But anything made of clear glass or even plastic, a fishbowl, a vase, a mason jar, an aquarium, any of these will work as a terrarium. See what I mean about creative freedom? Since I've got ferns and moss to plant, I'm putting them in a closed terrarium to hold the humidity in. If I were making like a cactus and succulent terrarium, I'd choose an open container to let all the humidity out. And now for my big experiment, grow lights in the lid. This baby may be going to live in a vintage shop, and I want to make sure it gets plenty of light. I'm using Loctite glue made specifically for glass, and I'm hoping that will be the best way to hold it all together in a humid environment. We'll see how this goes. I got the halo style grow lights that are dimmable, but it may be still too bright and I might have to diffuse the light a little bit. I'll put some glue around the outside of the ring to make sure we have maximum contact. And that's kind of centered. I'm calling it close enough for a first try. And now I need to hold it in place for 1 minute. And there we go. The wire will stick out of the back. There's a little dimmer switch on it, and it even has a built-in timer to turn it off at night. I'm going to let it cure overnight just to make sure that there aren't any fumes that could harm the plants. Next, I'm going to cut a piece of weed blocker fabric. This is so the substrates don't get mixed together. It keeps the soil from sifting down into the lava rock and charcoal. It's really easy to do with an X-Acto knife, but scissors work too. Make sure it's the same diameter as your terrarium so you don't get excess fabric sticking up. Now, I'll add some lava rock to the bottom. This will absorb any excess moisture and help it evaporate. You only need about 1 inch of this in the bottom. I really like these tiny lava rocks. A lot of times they're too big and they can make the soil surface uneven, especially in a smaller terrarium. On top of that goes some horticultural charcoal. I'll tip it in so I don't get any on my hands. I am not cosplaying as a chimney sweep today. Hello, Governor. This is to filter the water as it seeps down through the soil, removing any impurities that could cause problems in a warm, humid environment. You don't need as much of this as you do lava rock, just a thin layer. And then the weed blocker fabric. I'll flatten it all out so the surface is level, and now the soil won't sift down to the bottom. The next layer in this planty parfait is soil. I've got a terrarium mix here from Decor, which I've never used before, but it gets rave reviews and it looks really good. There seems to be a good bit of perlite and stone for drainage and aeration, but also sifted bark and peat for moisture retention. I'm just going to add a thin layer at first because now we've come to the fun part. When I say the fun part, I mean this is really just an extra step, and it's just for looks. You don't have to do this part, and you'll have just as nice a terrarium if you don't. But as for me, I've been obsessed with colored sand since I was a little kid, and I still love to play with it. So I'm going to do a scalloped border in orange and green sand. But which color to do first? Orange or green, orange or green, orange or green. Eeny, meeny, miny, greeny. One of my most used terrarium tools is a spoon. I took this one from the Crest greenhouse. It's like an old friend, and it's the exact right tool to make a sand border. Just put the spoon right at the edge and sprinkle a line all the way around the jar. I'll make sure it's all even, and then come back around with a dry paintbrush, yet another much used terrarium tool, and make a scalloped edge, pressing the brush down and making little indentations all the way around. And now a layer of the orange sand over the top, which makes a little scalloped border. I've got some tiny stones here, and I'm going to make a little rocky path that leads to a tiny house. I mean, we've got to have somewhere for the fairy folk to live, right? I hear they can get nasty when they're not given good accommodations. And here are some larger stones to decorate and hold the moss in place. But first, let's add the greenery. First, I'll add more soil, make it nice and level, brush it off the glass, and then make a little hill to put one of the ferns on. How about this little blue star? Whenever you pot little 2-inch plants, make sure the roots aren't wrapped in fabric. I find lots of these little guys are. It's not harmful when they're this tiny, but they might have trouble as they grow. Remove most of the soil and as much of the fabric as you can, and plop it into the soil. I'll add a bit more to make it more of a hill. My old friend, the blunt stake, is an excellent terrarium tool for packing the soil down around the plant to make sure it has a nice firm footing. This little terrarium shovel, also useful as a pointer, is just what I need to make a little hole in the soil for this lovely little holly fern. Remove most of that soil and fabric, and in she goes. I'll cover those exposed roots with soil and pack it in there with the blunt stake. Last, but certainly not least, a beautiful leatherleaf fern. So pretty, so feathery, so wrapped in fabric. Let's get that off, along with most of the soil, and plop that baby in. Add a bit more soil to cover the roots, pack it down, and we're good. Now that we're done with the soil and lava rock, here's an extra quick tip. Use a binder clip to keep your bags closed. If you've ever spilled half a bag of bonsai soil on your floor like I have, you'll know how important that is. Quick tips. Next, I'll add some moss and lichen to the soil. Ooh, this lichen is cool. I'm liking this lichen. It looks like it has little red flowers. I'm gonna mist it before I put it away. I don't want it to dry out. Oh, and check out this lovely moss. What a gorgeous color. Fun fact about Planty Gen, I love ferns and mosses and lichens more than any other plants, which I suppose either makes me prehistoric or a fairy. Jury's still out, so who knows. Leave your vote in the comments. I'll cut the moss into the right shape. You can use scissors for this and it won't harm the moss. I want it right up next to the glass so you can see all the way down to the roots. Let's give it a misting before I put it in so it doesn't dry out on the bottom. Put some on the hill and some more between those two ferns. Hey, where's that Galifianakis? And then we'll tuck the lichen pieces in with the moss. Isn't that pretty? Okay, we're in the final stretch. Now we just have to make a little path and add the house. Got to tweak the moss and lichen a little bit so I have room for the stone path. And here's the house for the fairies to live in. Looks like it was carved out of a rock. This is going to be a tiny little path, so I'm going to drop the rocks in with my fingers instead of using the spoon. Let's add a couple of pretty rocks to anchor the moss. And then I'll give it a good misting with my trusty old Harris sprayer. And we are done. Oh, okay, maybe a couple more rocks. This baby will need watering like maybe once a month, although I hardly ever water mine at all, just when the soil looks dried out, and it almost never does. What do you think? Drop me a comment. What kind of terrarium would you like to see me make next? Succulents? Tropicals? And stay tuned to this channel to find out how the big grow light experiment goes. Wish me luck. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments, and please like and subscribe to my channel and hit that bell to be notified when I release a new video. You can also find me on Instagram at planty.gen, where I share photos and tips as well. If you'd like to learn more about me, please visit my website at plantygenstinylandscapes.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Time for that theme song.
If your plants look sad and you lost all hope, tried everything, you're at the end of your rope. Should you throw them out into the street? Nope, just ask Planty Jen. If you want to be a planty acolyte, learn the tips and tricks to keep them growing right. Water, fertilizer, and the right amount of light, just ask Planty Jen.